Welcome back to the Grab Some Popcorn podcast. Your hosts, Jared and Emmanuel, here to bring you movie news, movie reviews, and all-around movie topics. Like, subscribe, and comment on whichever platform you're listening to this episode on, and be sure to check out previous episodes if you're listening for the first time. All right. Let's talk about something Hollywood just can't seem to get right sometimes, Emmanuel. Let's talk about casting choices.
Okay.
All right. So, recently, this is one of the ones, not too recent, but recent enough. I remember back when they first revealed, Doctor Strange 2, they had, John Krasinski. He was playing Mr. Fantastic, and a lot of people latched onto that. And they wanted him to be Mr. Fantastic and the new Fantastic Four. And they wound up going with Pedro Pascal, who wound up doing a great job, by the way. But I just remember that was a big complaint back in the day. And now we're seeing recently Sydney Sweeney was announced to play legendary boxer Christy Martin in a new biopic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know Christy Martin's story, which I don't, I actually had to do some research on it. She was the face of women's boxing in the 90s. She survived a murder attempt, and she became a trailblazer for the sport and the LGBTQ community. But here's the thing. Sydney Sweeney, a rising star, of course, very popular, especially amongst the young crowd. She was in Euphoria, and she's had a couple of roles after, but she doesn't exactly scream like tough 90s boxer.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, and it got me thinking, why does Hollywood keep making these casting choices that feel more about star power than authenticity? All right, we know money is a driving force behind all of these movies. They all want to make money. They all want to make their return on investment. And the best way to do that is to bring forth a cast that's going to, bring people in. But, what about the portrayal of the character that should be believable on screen? Of course, these people are going to bring in the audience, but is the performance going to live up to the hype once that name has been casted? So today we're diving into the Sydney Sweeney debate and other infamous miscasts, and we're asking the question, does celebrity clout really make a better movie, or does it sometimes ruin the story?
Alrighty. So yeah, it seems like an interesting topic. So let's do this. Let's get some backstory on Christy Martin, because I wasn't familiar with who that was. So she was the first female boxing superstar, known as the coal miner's daughter. She was the first woman to sign with Don King and became a pay-per-view attraction in the 90s. Also, she was a record-setting fighter. She went 49-7-3 in her career.
Wow.
And helped push women's boxing into the mainstream. As Jared mentioned earlier, she survived a murder attempt. In 2010, her then husband, who was also her trainer, shot and stabbed her, but she survived and later testified against him. And also, she was really into the LGBTQ movement. She came out as gay after surviving her getting shot and stabbed, and came out as gay, married her wife, became an advocate for women in sport and domestic abuse survivors. That's just a little bit something about Christy Martin that I'm sure, I didn't know any of this stuff, but that's just some info on her.
Wow. And, that seems like a lot to live up to on the screen. I mean, we've never seen Sydney in this type of role before, and we're definitely not saying she can't do it, but just the type of actor she is, I feel like she's very soft, she's attractive. She goes for those roles where her beauty can definitely push the role forward. And in this role is quite the opposite. So now I pose this question to you, Emmanuel, and the audience. If you guys want to leave your response to that question, to this question. Be sure to leave it in the comments. But studios, they often go for big names like Sydney Sweeney instead of someone who looks and feels more like the real Christy Martin. Do you think that star power is worth the trade-off for authenticity, or does it hurt the story when the casting feels off?
So I think that the movie studios, they have to have a balanced trade-off between portraying characters well and actually making money at the box office. The guys making the movie, they want to make the movie right. The guys investing money into all of the equipment and everything, the locations, the directing, whatever else requires money, they want to see a good return on their investment. So in the end, it's a seesaw between the movie guys and the money guys. And I'd personally like to see someone that looks and feels right. But in the end, I think if Sydney Sweeney does a good job of acting, and that would just make it the best of both worlds for the movie. Like if she just does a good job, the movie could be a success.
No, definitely. Yeah. Her giving a good performance will definitely get movie critics talking and will definitely draw more people in.
Exactly. Let me ask you this. If they had gone with the more authentic casting, would the movie still get the same attention or would it get lost without a marketable star?
Mm, I think that for a story with this much emotion and impact, it would have definitely been better to go for a more authentic character. Sydney is up and coming for sure. And it could definitely be good, if they want to make it like a blockbuster hit. But then when the critics come down to it, like they're going to be really critical of her performance because she's portraying someone that is iconic and, live this life. Like it's not a made up character for a movie. This is like someone's actual life. So, people that know her family, they're going to see this movie. I'm pretty sure that they'll come out and talk about it. And just for the roles, Sydney usually goes for, they're usually like rom-coms or just, like I said, something that they want to put in the blockbuster realm, something maybe that's coming out over the summer, a serious biopic about an iconic woman who has a very tough story. Like, this story is tough. She, was almost killed by her husband. So it's just like, it's a lot to bring to the screen. And I'm just not sure if she can really, capture that role.
Okay. All right. Another question. Think about like Hilary Swank in Million Dollar Baby. She transformed for that role and critics bought into it completely. So what makes that different for Sydney Sweeney in the role she's trying to play now?
I think the difference is really just the way we've seen Sydney Sweeney before. But to be honest, I've seen a couple of still images and how she's transformed her body. Like you don't really see the whole thing, but you could definitely tell she's been training and working really hard. I just think it's like like I said, I don't know Christy Martin, but it seems like boxers are very tough people, and Sydney Sweeney just seems like a very feminine woman. So I'm just wondering if she's going to be able to bring that personality to life on the big screen. Because like I keep saying, we've never seen her in this role before. She does rom-com. She's been in Euphoria where she plays a teenage girl. So it's just like, this is just going to be a total 360 for her. And I'm definitely going to go see it. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And what makes this Sydney Sweeney casting so interesting, like we just brought up with Hilary Swank, the role of Maggie Fitzgerald and Million Dollar Baby, it felt very authentic. She trained really hard. She transformed her body. And that's what really got the critics to buy into the role. And I see Sydney Sweeney doing the same thing. So you never know. Like she's putting the work in. We're seeing the work being put in through the images that are coming out of the movie from what we've seen so far. So, we can definitely see she's putting the work in, but we got to see how it translates.
Because the debate, is it that she hasn't proven she can disappear into a role yet? Or is it Hollywood more focused on grabbing attention with recognizable faces over authentic fits? Is it that is it that she hasn't really transformed for a role yet in that capacity, or is it more, Hollywood causing the criticism?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like we haven't seen her transform for a movie like this before. So I think we just got to give her a chance, but also just, basing it upon her work before, it'll really be a test for her. I think this movie honestly will really be a test. And we could be ended up being blown away because she's obviously putting the work in with the transforming of her body, just like Hilary Swank did for Million Dollar Baby. And I'm not saying this is going to be Million Dollar Baby, but you never know. We just have to, give it a chance and see where it takes.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, so another miscast for sure, like we can talk about. Let's take Kevin Hart in Borderland. Now, I like Kevin Hart. He's a hilarious comedian, but if you look at the character that he's supposed to be representing from the Borderlands video game, one, a much taller character. He's a tough, battle-hardened soldier, and it's just hard to see past Kevin Hart being who Kevin Hart is. So that was, a recent miscast, and we've also seen Chris Pratt and Mario. A lot of people did not like the casting of that, and it's hard to really be critical when the movie is so successful. Like we know these studios are not going to put out bad movies, but it's just when the castings come out and they don't deliver, the movie still ends up being good, but you can just tell like the person that is playing this role is not authentic to the character, so it does.
Yeah, I've definitely. I felt that before. I was like, the movie was good, but I was like, man, they could have just. I'm not sure if that was the right person to play Mario, or I'm not sure that was the right person to play, whoever the main character was.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. When do you think chasing a big name helps the movie, and when does it just make the audience roll their eyes?
I think the studios, they want to get the most sought after actors in their movies that they can afford. I think sometimes it doesn't make sense. Like an example would be how once I saw Simu Liu in the movie like Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And to me, this movie was great. He fit the role perfectly, and I was perfectly intent upon watching every movie he was in. Then I saw him in Barbie, I believe it was. And these two movies were completely and totally opposite of each other. And when the studios and actors do something like that, it confuses people. Once you have a really badass superhero action kung fu guy, and then in the next you have a character in Barbie. Something like this made me roll my eyes. Nothing against Simu Liu. I'm sure with the amount of money that Barbie made, he walked away with more money for Barbie than he did for Shang-Chi, but that was just an example of a time I rolled my eyes at the studio's casting choice and like the order of the movies in which they cast someone in.
Gotcha. And also, I just want to point out, sometimes I think it's good to trust the studios because even though we may roll our eyes when a certain actor is casted in a role, it ends up being really good. Like, look at Robert Pattinson when he played the Batman. Like, initially people were like, oh man, the guy from Twilight, like, how is he going to be a good Batman? And then the movie ends up being critically praised, and it revitalizes the character for a whole new era. We have the Batman that came out first, and we got the Penguin spinoff, which was amazing. And
Angway was
and that right, we have the Batman too, which is bringing those characters back and then continuing the story of Batman. So it's just like sometimes, we got to trust that the Hollywood studios did pick out someone really good, and you see what happens when that does. But all right, great talk on that. So let's move on to segment 2, where we'll be talking about the movie Weapon. Very anticipated movie of the year. So Weapon came out maybe about a week or two ago. and it was directed by Zach Cregger. He's the filmmaker behind The Barbarian, and it's released by New Line Cinema. So just to give you a quick synopsis of the movie, it stars Jennifer Garner, who was also the Silver Surfer in the new Fantastic Four. And it's one of the most anticipated horror movies of the year. I mean, my anticipation for this movie was through the roof. I even got tickets to see it on IMAX, which is rare for a horror movie. Usually you just see that on a regular screen, but I totally bought into it and I went and got IMAX. The trailers before the movie were pretty good at hiding the context of what was going on, and I applaud them for that. I usually don't even look at movie trailers. I usually just look at the teaser that comes out in the beginning. But when they do the theatrical trailer, or even like if I'm in the movies and the previews are coming on, I try to just look at my phone because the trailers always give away the best parts of the movie. But this movie did a great, even just teaser trailer. They were able to keep whatever was in there out of context. So when you saw it in the movie, it wasn't even spoiled because you got the backstory of what was going on as you watched the movie. So let's get into our review, Emmanuel. How about you give me your first impressions of this movie?
Alrighty, I'll do that. So Jared, he messages me and he's like, "Hey, watch this movie and we're going to be talking about it." And I looked it up. It was called Weapons. And I looked it up and I saw that it was a horror movie. So for those that don't know me, I'm not a huge fan of horror movies. So Jared should have kind of known what he was getting into by having me review a horror movie. That's a little bit of backstory before I start talking about it. So let's get into it. I'm not a fan of horror movies, so my first impression was already not so great. I was not excited to watch this movie. I didn't know it was being hyped or anything like that, so I just came in, watched it, and I'm giving you my opinion. While watching the movie, my impression, it didn't get any better. It took an hour just for me to understand who the villain, like what the threat was, what the villain was. So that was just my raw reaction was like, I was kind of not that excited. I was kind of confused and I didn't know it was even being hyped. So that was my first couple of minutes on it.
Well, my first impression of the movie, I thought the movie was good. It was told through many different perspectives, which I really liked. It reminded me of, I don't know if you ever saw this movie. It's a pretty old movie. I think it's from like '05, '06. But it's a movie called Crash. And it's pretty much,
I'm seeing
it's pretty much, it's not a horror movie, but it is a movie that's told through many perspectives about all these people involved. I've only seen it once, so I'm sorry if I'm like telling the movie wrong, but I know that it's told through many perspectives of people just like this movie was, and it has to do with the car crash. But I thought the fact that there was a similarity in that, that's something that we haven't seen in a really long time. The movie was not as scary as I thought it would be due to the trailer, but I thought that it did a great job of keeping the tension and being suspenseful for sure. I thought there was a good mix of comedy and humor. The beginning did feel a little bit slow to me for sure, but I think it's set up for the other character's perspective to be told good. What about any emotional impact? Like, what was the best scene or most memorable for you, Emmanuel?
I honestly didn't get really scared at any of it. Not much emotional impact. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just going to give you my honest opinion. I was kind of sitting there watching it and I was watching it for like, the first 15 minutes, 20, trying to kind of make sense of what's going on, 30 minutes though. I was into the movie about an hour. I might have literally walked out. I might have literally turned it off after an hour because I wasn't able to tell like what was going on. Emotional impact. I was kind of just hoping the movie would be over. But there was this one part where, this guy, I guess he turns into what you can call a zombie and he like runs in this weird fashion. He's running across this gas station and he's strangling the main character in this zombie mode. So that happened at one point and I was kind of like, And I was like, okay, maybe this is going to get cooler at some point. And it kind of did. But as far as emotional impact, I was just kind of waiting for the movie to be over. Like, and I'm not trying to be funny. I'm literally just like watching the movie, like trying to figure out what's going on. And I'm like, man, if Jared had not asked me to watch it and then, I wouldn't know. I might have not. Oh, yeah, I might have cut it off. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. For me, the most memorable scene I would say was when the old lady who was the antagonist of the movie, when she first took control of the parents, and the parents were like stabbing themselves in the face with the forks. Like,
Know about that.
that was definitely a memorable scene for me. But I just want to say, like, that scene was shown in the trailer, and you have no idea the context of the scene. So when you finally see it in the movie, like, that's why I was saying before, like, the trailer did a really good job of showing things but not providing context, so that when you see it in the movie, it's still very fresh and cool, because although you've seen it, now you finally see why it's happening, and it just like makes the movie unfold more. So I thought that was really great how they did that. Was there any unique factor for you, Emmanuel? Do you think it brought something fresh to the horror genre?
I don't think so. Like, I didn't even know that this movie was being hyped. I never heard of it until you mentioned it. And that's kind of a good thing, because if I did see a whole bunch of hype and then I saw it, I would have been pretty disappointed. No disrespect meant to the crew or the cast, but the movie just didn't tickle my fancy.
Got it. Um, for me, I don't think there was really much of a unique factor, but I did appreciate the way that the story was told and the different character perspectives. I know people probably haven't seen that movie Crash. It's a pretty old movie, so like, the new generation, they probably go in and see this movie and think, wow, like I've never seen this before in a movie, which is cool. But I also noticed that the movie also had a lot of homages to other horror movies. One that I can think of off the top was when the mother was going after the kid, like when the parents were going after the kid towards the end of the movie, and her head goes through the wooden door. Whenever you see someone's head go through a wooden door in a movie, you immediately think of The Shining. Jack Nicholson, "Here's Johnny," one of the most famous movie lines, iconic scene. So the movie also had a couple of other moments like that, and I like to see movies do that. We always got to pay respect to the horror movies that came and left classical imprint on film. I had recently seen the Bambi movie, and they kind of had that, when Bambi killed one of the people that they were chasing, it slowed down in slow-mo, kind of like the Scream killing. But either way, I just thought that was a great thing to point out. So did you have any issues with the movie, Emmanuel? Let me know.
Yeah. So I'm not going to just say the movie was bad and then not back it up. So I think that, so the score that I gave the movie was 3 out of 10. I think that was the lowest score that I've gave any of the movies that we reviewed. But let me tell you why. I'm not just saying 3 out of 10 to be funny. Like, let me tell you the problems that I had. So for one, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of horror, and this movie just almost made me all the way good on horror. I didn't like how the people ran with their arms behind them like a butterfly. Like, that was just, to me, that was just kind of weird. If you see the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. They kind of like, it's just like, I don't know if there's, I don't know what it is, but that was just weird to me. I didn't know the significance of that. Also, I didn't like how they were kind of like zombies, but not really, but they were basically zombies. So I thought it was a zombie movie, but it wasn't. The voodoo aspect was okay, but is this a voodoo movie or is this a zombie movie? I was confused
I
about
think it
that.
was a wig. I think that's what it was.
But she turned them into like kind of zombie.
Yeah, but like I think the overall, like, 'cause they especially wrote witch on the Jennifer Garner's. Like, remember the guy wrote witch in red paint? Actually, the old lady. Like, I think she was a witch, but I see what you're saying for sure. Like the confusion, I get it. I'm not like cutting you off to say what you're saying is wrong. because I agree with you for sure. But I'm just saying overall, I think she was supposed to be a witch. She was doing witchcraft. But go ahead, keep it.
So she was a witch, so she did witchcraft and she turned them into kind of zombies. Also, I didn't like the fact that it took too long for me to figure out what the heck was going on. They could have gave us at least like a single clue in the first hour of the movie that there was some voodoo going on. Like I was literally confused about that. And I don't have too much backstory on horror movies. I'm in no way, shape, or form like a legitimate fan of the genre. So maybe it was just me not being able to figure it out. But I was literally sitting there for the first hour, like trying to figure out what's going on. I wish they had gave us a clue as to, maybe just one little cut scene where you can see like some smoke or a stick snap to where you're like, oh crap, like, what was that? And at least have you start thinking that there's a witchcraft involved. But I don't think I saw something like that. I hated how the witch looked. She, you know what I mean? I don't.
She was wearing that wig.
She had this red hair. She was like, I don't know. She kind of looked like a weird grandma more than a witch. I'm not sure if I like that. Like I said, it took an hour for me to build an understanding of the movie because that's when we finally meet the witch and see that there's voodoo, and I didn't know what I was watching. I also didn't understand why they had to tell the story from different people's perspectives. Like it kept on there was like several like Jared was comparing it to Crash, where you see the movie from like several people's different perspectives, and it broke the movie into parts based on different people as the title, and that kind of confused me more, but I can see why they might have done that so you can see the movie from different people's perspectives. I'm not sure if I like that. I was kind of neutral on that. I'm going to keep going. I don't understand the title of the movie. Weapons. What does weapons have to do with anything? Like, I'm not sure if I'm missing something. I probably missed something since the whole time I was watching the movie.
I think essentially she was making them into weapons. Like, you see how she took the hair and then she did her little witchcraft. Like, when she went to the couple's home, the principal's home, and, made them, I kind of for blanking on what she did. But the end result was she had one of them, she had the guy kill the other one. And then she like did the thing with the hair that she had cut from the main character, wrapped it around the stick, and then sent him, the principal, on the way to go kill her, like a nonstop mission until she was dead. So like, I guess that's why they called it weapons, because essentially that's what she's turning them into.
That's good. She was turning people into weapons. See, to me, weapons are like guns, knives, weapons are weapons. Maybe she should have been called like control or like transform or, whatever. I mean, the title confused me as well. So, but basically, those were what I didn't like. I basically thought it sucked and gave it 3 out of 10. It had good actors, which, gave it a point. And it wasn't all doom and gloom. I'm not going to give it a 1 or a 2, but this is, for me, I guess I just don't like horror movies. I gave it a 3 out of 10.
Well, for me, my only real issue with the movie is I think that there wasn't enough development for the old lady. I think that they could have had a day for her, just like they had the perspective for all the other characters. I think maybe they could have cut out one of the characters and gave a perspective for the old lady to just explain like what her whole plan was, why she was doing this, why she went and attacked her family members. Like they mentioned something about her being sick, but like you got the kids and like just what was her like real plan for doing this and how long was she going to do it for? And just to compare it like to a movie that I had seen earlier, Bring Her Back, they had an old woman as an antagonist in this movie as well. But I feel like the character was a bit more fleshed out because they explained like what she was trying to do in the movie, which was bring her daughter back. And, it didn't leave you questioning like why she was doing this. It just left, a little hole in the story for weapons as to why the antagonist was doing this and what the overall plan was. So I think that was a little bit of miss for me. But other than that, I thought the movie was great. I give it a 9 out of 10. I would definitely recommend it to the audience if you're listening to this review. And although we did talk a lot about the movie, I know a lot of times people don't care about that. Like they'll read a review about a movie and still go watch the movie after. So If you guys like the review of the movie, definitely go see it. Or if you've seen it and listening to the review now, make sure, you leave a comment and tell us what you think about it. And I think that's a good spot to wrap up. Unless you have anything else to say, Manuel, for weapons?
Oh, I mean, I would say I don't want to be all doom and gloom. I would say watch it if you have an interest in like voodoo and like zombies and stuff. Um, yeah, I don't want to be all doom and gloom. Just I wish it would have just focused on. I think to me, the way I saw it was it had the voodoo like witchcraft element, but then she turned them into like weapons, which kind of resembled zombies. And so to me, someone who's not a fan of horror, it was just kind of confusing because I thought it was like a zombie movie and it turned out to be a witchcraft voodoo type movie. And me not being a professional on horror subjects at all, it was just kind of confusing. So, but watch it. I would say watch it if you're a fan, especially if you like witchcraft and voodoo. You would probably love it.
All right. Well, thanks, y'all, for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. And we'll catch up with you next week. Like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you very much.